here. The first speaker, Bruno Le Maire, the Minister of France for Economy, Finance, Industrial and Digital Sovereignty. Thank you very much. As a second speaker, we have the Chair of the Council, the one who has worked a lot in getting everybody together, Anna Christmann. She is the federal government coordinator for space activities in Germany, please. And then, of course, our Director General, Joseph Aschbacher, who has been leading this discussion with the executive and will have the announcement for the CM22. So without waiting any further, and sorry for the delay, there's a lot of numbering, crushing, so that you can have the accurate results of this meeting. I would like to hand over to you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, and if you allow me, I will speak in French because we are in Paris. So I will switch from English to French. So for all those who do not speak French, I think you have the microphones. La première chose que je...
The first thing that I would like to say is that this conference is concluding with a great success beyond our expectations. And I'd like to thank the Director General of ESA, Joseph Aschbacher, who has left no stone unturned in achieving this. And I think that we can give him a round of applause to Joseph Aschbacher for the work that he has done, particularly last night. Why is this a success that goes beyond our expectations? Well, because today Europe can meet its space ambitions, fulfill its space ambitions. Europe has given itself the funds in technical, scientific and financial resources so that it can compete with China and the US, the other two space powers on the planet. So there'll be three space powers setting out our ambitions for space: the US, China and Europe, who has set out its space ambition today. Europe has set out the political resources it needs by stating it has a preference for European launchers to launch its satellites, so Ariane and Vega, and that Europe prefers them over other launchers. If we want that launcher sovereignty, then we are going to have to assert that preference for European launchers in Europe. I'd like to thank the German Minister for Space and the Italian Minister for Space, who I have met at length this morning. Our discussions were lively, as they usually are in Europe, but as should always be the case in Europe, we concluded those discussions by a European agreement between Germany, Italy and France and the other member states. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because without that constructive approach, and from Robert Habeck as well, we wouldn't have managed to agree on the political resources to go into this. And then, of course, financial resources. Money is what it all comes down to, we know, and that's certainly the case for space affair. We've got almost 17 billion euro that will go to the European Space Agency today. And of that 17 billion, France will contribute 3.2 billion euro. Together with the other financial commitments to space, space policy will represent 9 billion euro for France in the next 3 years. And that makes France the largest funder of space activities in Europe. I'd like also to confirm that we will be putting up to 300 million euro towards the European constellation, the collective constellation, which could give us communication sovereignty as well. So that's another important step towards meeting our ambitions for space. And then scientific resources to go with the funding and the political will. Together with our sovereignty in space, what do we get? We get the opportunity to observe to observe the climate, to observe wind patterns, to observe CO2 emissions, to see who is emitting and polluting and who's not, and who is meeting their CO2 emission goals and not, and who is not meeting their goals. It allows us also to monitor climate change independently and sovereignly. And that is so important for all of us that we're not going to delegate the observation of our CO2 emissions or theirs to the US or to China. We want to be able to monitor CO2 emissions around the planet so that we can adapt energy use and succeed in our fight against climate change. Scientific resources now in communicating on a day-to-day basis. We have some very high-performance systems in Europe, but we would like in Europe to be able to communicate at a strategic level, so militarily, and on an independent basis. We know that there is a war going on in Ukraine, and that secure communications and military communications are a strategic affair, and that if Europe cannot be an independent power if it delegates its military communications to any other power. So the political and scientific resources have to go towards space, and we've done that. And then let me turn now to exploration. I know that this is something that Thomas Pesquet is very keen on this. He'd like to be the first person on Mars. I don't know if he'll manage, but there are other planets perhaps that might come into question. I know your ambitions and your dreams, and I share them with everyone. Perhaps we'll have to focus on achieving other dreams. But we want to go as far as we can in exploration so that we can understand the universe that we live in. Understanding is essential for Europe, it's essential for humanity. That's what we're going to achieve thanks to the success that this ESA conference has been, Joseph. We began in concern, but we wrap up enthusiastic. So, vive space policy in Europe and vive the European Space Agency. Thank you, Joseph.
Merci infiniment pour ces mots.
Thank you very much for those words of encouragement.
Pass the floor to Anna Christman, the chair of the Council at ministerial level.
Thank you so much, and thanks to our host, Bruno Le Maire. Thank you for hosting this ministerial conference here in Paris. That was just magnificent. I think we here at a brilliant venue to talk and decide about our ambitions in space. So thank you to France, also for the presidency, together with Portugal, for the ESA over the last 3 years. And also my thanks, of course, go to the Director General, Josef Aschbacher, who prepared with this whole team this ministerial conference and made us propositions as member states how we really can be ambitious in space in Europe. And I think that is what the ministerial meeting has shown, and what the member state have decided is Europe is ambitious in space. And I think that is a very important signal that is sent here from Paris, because space is a very relevant technology for the future. It is critical infrastructure for many things that are important for our life on Earth, for saving our planet, for having secure connectivity, having cybersecurity, and being a sovereign continent. And therefore, I'm delighted that we have a very good result at this conference, and we show this clear signal that we want to be a strong part in the global development for space technology, and we are a sovereign continent to develop these technologies here in Europe together. And we are also a strong partner for our international partners, because that is also a strong sign we send here from Paris. We do our part in ambitious missions as Artemis, as the new way to the moon, and we as Europe are part of this, and we are an important partner for the others, and especially the US in this case, for going to the moon. And chairing this meeting for me was really an honor, because we had a very joint spirit that was developing over the last 2 days, and really decide what is needed to go this ambitious path. And we've seen very engaged discussions to the last minutes, and I think that was really important because everyone was encouraged and everyone was engaged in really making this result possible. And there I really want to thank all the member states. I think we have shown what really European ambition is and what it means to really collaborate together for making these efforts possible. So I think that is a strong signal, and it shows what Europe can achieve together. And maybe saying a word about ESA and how it is so special how we collaborate as member states in the context of ESA in Europe. I think we have with ESA a great organization that offers us lots of expertise that makes all the important projects possible. And in Europe, sometimes we might discuss a little bit deeper among all states to find a solution, but then we show here at the meeting it's a very strong result, and it's something where we really come together and bring all our strengths from the different member states together, from our industry, from our expertise, from our science and research, and that together forms just a very strong continent for space, for expertise, for a strong ecosystem, and I think that is something we can be really proud of as Europeans. So as Joseph Aschbacher will present the concrete results in a minute, I just want to say that I think we have really very important projects in this program that we decided. We as Europe are a strong actor, especially in Earth observation. We really have climate as one of our top priorities that is globally seen, that we have a special expertise in this field. But of course, all the other fields, we have a strong program in exploration and also space safety, things that are also important for sustainability, and of course, all the ambitions that we put now also in secure connectivity and being a sovereign continent. So I think we have great results. It was an honor to chair this meeting, and it is an honor for Germany to have the presidency for the ESA for the next 3 years, and we are happy together with the member states, together with ESA to go this process the next years and making the efforts to really stay and be also in future ambitious in space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Griezmann. Thank you. I can see how much you energize the member states and you energize this room. Thank you. Maybe I can ask you to take your seat for a bit of information. Whatever is going to be presented here, which has taken a little time to get the data and so on, will be available on our website, the ESA vision.int website. Plus, in addition, we have the possibility to have interviews after this meeting. So, floor is yours, Joseph. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for these wonderful words. First of all, Minister Bruno Le Maire, thank you for having us here. This is such an incredible place here. It is a magic place, not only here in this Grand Palais Éphémère, but also where we have been last night or the other social events which we had. This has really inspired us and has helped us coming to the result which we have. And the hospitality of France was outstanding, also in terms of preparing this event, this meeting with many interactions, as you can imagine, and really a very warm thank you for hosting us and being such a wonderful host here for this ministerial conference. But also, Anna Griezmann has done an incredible job. You have heard first glimpses of the result in chairing this meeting. And this is not an easy exercise, I can tell you, because there is a lot going on at the meeting, around the meeting, behind the meeting, in closed doors, in open doors. There's a lot of negotiation, and this is very specific for the ESA Ministerial Conference. It is not a classical conference, as you might imagine. It is really that the member states are negotiating, deciding, and subscribing to those programs which are their priorities strategically. And there's a lot of deals made between member states, between different constellations of member states. And I have to say, this is the beauty of ESA, how it works, that we make sure that we provide the floor and the mechanism that these programs can be put together. And this is really all the credit going to the member states who have worked intensely over the last 2 days. But not only the last 2 days, actually a year and a half we have prepared this ministerial conference, but of course all culminated in yesterday and today when all the programs have been put on the table, subscriptions made, subscriptions taken out again and in somewhere else in order to make sure that all the priorities are well met. The result is good, and I would like to show you in a couple of slides what the figures are and what they are. 16.9 billion, so close to 17 billion. And this is something which is quite remarkable. And I really would like to say that this is a large increase, almost 17% compared to the previous ministerial conference. So this is a very significant increase. But you have to see this figure in context. Today we have a financial crisis, we have inflation, we have an energy crisis, we have, of course, still a situation in the economy coming out of COVID, which is still a challenge for many. And despite these circumstances, with inflation being so high, I have to say that I'm very impressed by this figure, which has been achieved overall. And this is very significant, and this is really the work of all the member states. You ministers, you heads of delegations back in the member states who have, I know, worked extremely hard to convince your finance minister or your head of state that this is necessary to bring Europe forward in order to really not only not miss the train, but show where we are leading and where we are good. And you see here the breakdown of these various activities. Human and robotic exploration plus 16%, 2.7 billion is a significant increase compared to about roughly 2 billion which we had last time. But much more important, what is in this, what is the content than the money? First of all, we, Europe, are meeting all our obligations of our international partners. One of them is the ISS operation. I can very proudly and very happily say on behalf of the member states that we can contribute our part to the operation of the ISS from the European side. And I think this is a very significant achievement of this result today, that the ministers collectively have decided that Europe is committed to the ISS until 2030, of course, together with all the other all the other partners on the ISS. And I think this is remarkable, and I'm very happy to see that. But more than that, we have also committed to other activities in exploration. Very important, we are starting 2 very important missions. One is what we call EL3, the European Large Logistic Lander, also called Argonaut, which is a very large, as the name indicates, logistic lander where we are transporting mass from the Earth to the moon, about 1.5 to 1.7 tons to the moon. We will start work very soon with building up the various activities. The plan is in the very early 30s to have the first transport to the moon. But what is even more important is this is not a one-off mission. This is something where we expect that more of these transports will be necessary or will be coming up in the future. And therefore, this is also commercially very interesting because commercial partners can engage with us. Of course, through ESA, we are developing the technology. We developed the first Argonaut. But then we do hope that industry in a partnership will engage and sell some of the transports to other partners, whether they are institutional or commercial. And this is certainly something that is on the horizon. And today, you ministers, you have decided that this is one of the elements in the future. Another important element in the exploration package is ExoMars. ExoMars, and some of you have followed it very closely, has been having a turbulent time, if I may call it this way. Through the invasion of Russia and Ukraine, we had immediately to stop the cooperation with Russia. We have terminated formally. And then, of course, the question is, how do we proceed with this mission? And there were really different options that have been discussed, all the way from putting the Rosalind Franklin rover to a museum until other options which we have been contemplating with our member states. I'm very glad to say that we have found a very positive way forward, meaning that Europe will take responsibility. The majority of this mission, ExoMars mission, will be done with European technology. We work also with our American friends, and they have indicated that they might contribute, and I should be very precise that their contribution, of course, still needs to be confirmed because they have waited for our decision today. But we have expectation that the US is also contributing through this, through a launcher, through the braking engine and the RHU, the radioisotope heater units, which are quite important elements. But the majority of the future ExoMars mission is European. That means we have replaced those parts which have been Russian with European partners, and as I say, with three exceptions with our US partners. So I'm very happy personally to see this happening, because if you think of the science behind the drill with a 2-meter drill on the Martian surface, go in underneath and see whether there has been life or there's still microbial life existing, to see whether there is life out there, has been life out there. This is the best way of doing it, and this will be unique science, first science, even in 6 years' time when the mission is being launched. So this has been an extremely important achievement. There have been several other quite important elements included here, but all of the human and robotic exploration part has to do with exploration, including astronauts. And Minister Le Maire was already mentioning Thomas Pesquet. We have 6 of our 7 astronauts here with us. You see them in the rows. I'm always so happy to see them. It's seeing the smiling faces, but also these incredible people, which they are, not only telling us how good and what they do in space, but the research they are doing, the experiments they are conducting is quite unique and help us a lot in daily life. You will see later on we will have also prepared the ground for the next generation, the next class of astronauts. I don't want to preempt that part, but this certainly is very much connected to the human and robotic exploration envelope. And therefore, having an increase, a significant increase, is very important. Let me move on to space safety. Space safety has several elements. I'm not going into all the details, but just highlight some of them. Let me pick a smaller one, just to show also that this is a program with a lot of diversity. In-orbit servicing. This is something where we expect that future opportunities will come up of a commercial nature, that we are orbiting, or that we help in orbit, that satellites can be extended, their lifetime extended, fuel added, or any other technology applied, that this is made possible. And there we, just today, in the last few minutes, got a significant increase, because this was recognized as a future market, as a future evolution, where future business opportunities can develop, and something that has developed nicely. But of course, we have Vigil, we have Hera, which are the large missions, Vigil for space weather, Hera, of course, to make sure that we are in combination with the DART mission of the US, making understanding well what happened at the impact of the NASA mission. Then space transportation. Space transportation, of course, is the core of our business, meaning that we need to make sure that we can launch our satellites with European means and having our launcher capability. And this was already mentioned by Minister Le Maire, we have made huge progress. And I'm commenting this a bit maybe behind the curtain, behind the scenes. We have really managed that the 3 countries were the main investors in the launcher domain, Germany, France, and Italy, that they have signed this paper, which you have managed. We have, of course, only helped in the process, but which you have signed, and which was, I think, a milestone in moving ahead in launches. For me, this is a very important milestone, because I'm saying as Director General of the European Space Agency, we are interested to have European projects, European initiatives, and I was afraid that on the launcher side, this European spirit has not been as strong as it should be. And this divergence, which could happen, I think we have brought together again, and this is really thanks to the politicians who have made very clear directions, given very clear guidelines on what and how we do it. And really, this was so important for launchers, but also for all the other dossiers, because launchers obviously is connected to many other dossiers. So this was really an important milestone. So there we have 4 main activities within space transportation. Of course, the use of Ariane 6 and Vega in the future, making sure that the exploitation is very well on its feet, and the subscriptions have been very, very good. You see overall plus 17%. We have also Space Rider as a very important reusable vehicle, which we are building up, and this is led by Italy, but of course with other partners, and this is something that is extremely important as technology development for Europe. We have Boost, which is developing into future technologies, future Technology is also supporting micro-launches, for example, and there we have also got good subscription. And of course, very, very important, the use of the spaceport and the space infrastructure of Kourou, but also some of the other facilities. Then Earth observation. Earth observation has a long list of individual projects, of course, the biggest one being Future Rio. Of course, I know this program very well, having been there myself for a couple of years. But this Future Rio really prepares the ground for all the other Earth observation activities. But we also have concrete missions. We have a new Earth Explorer. We have AELOS 2. AELOS is a mission where technology is used which nobody in the world has mastered yet. That means a UV laser to measure wind profiles in cloud-free atmospheres. Nobody else has mastered this technology. Europe has done it with AELOS 1, and now we build an operational mission together with EUMETSAT to make this happen. Plus, of course, a number of other satellites, InCubed and other programs which in the Earth observation package are extremely essential to address the fundamental fear of many young people, which is climate change, and we have to respond to this, and space can really respond. Telecommunications and integrated applications has a number of activities, but let me again highlight some. Of course, ARTIS, the ARTIS program, is developing technology for all telecom activities. It's a very industry-driven or partnership-oriented project where industry quite often makes the proposal with us. We develop technology in order to make sure industry is very competitive, and this is very successful. And the result, of course, is that European space industry and telecoms are really, really competitive on the world market. But also we have, and this is extremely important for me personally, and I think for many of you, we have funded, or we are funding secure connectivity, co-funding and implementing activities, which is the program led by the European Union. And I think this is a very important aspect, not only for the content, that means we build up a European constellation, but also the partnership with the European Union and our partners, of course, the initiative being led by Commissioner Breton. But there I think we have now put money on the table through the ESA member state mechanism, and we help building up this program. And I think it is fair to say that the contributions of the ESA member states have been essential for this program to really take off and gain momentum and gain further weight. Of course, in very close cooperation with Commissioner Breton, who gave a fantastic speech yesterday in the ESA Ministerial Council addressing the importance of secure connectivity for Europe and for all of us. And I'm very proud that we have delivered, that you ministers have delivered the ESA portion of it, the ESA part of it that goes together. But also we have civil security from space as one of the elements included in the package of TIA, but also Moonlight. Moonlight being a future constellation of telecom and navigation satellites on and around the moon. That means the constellation, of course, around the moon, but for use on and around the moon. This is something where I see huge commercial potential as well, because communication, as you have mobile phones here, you pay a price for your phone calls. Also in the future on the moon, there will be communication needs and there will be commercial activities, and there's a strong commercial drive here as well. Technology, needless to say that especially in times of crisis, like we have them today with the war in front of our door, you need to be more autonomous. You need to make sure that you have more independence in terms of technology, not only from Russia, but in general, that Europe has a strong space capability. And in technology, we are developing this strong space capability thanks to the subscriptions which have come today. One of the elements I'd like probably to pick out within this sector is Solaris. Solaris is a feasibility study. I'm not saying this is yet a project. It's a feasibility study which will see how far or what the hurdles are from a technology point of view in order to gain solar power in space, beam it down to the surface, and of course then use this energy on the surface. If this works, and if we could establish a solar power plant in space in the order of gigawatts, this is the order of magnitude we are aiming at, and use this sustainably on the ground, this would be a huge game changer. But as I say, I'm still careful there because we have first to test technology viability, but this has huge potential if it works. Commercialization, we have a relatively small envelope here called Scale Up. It was oversubscribed, as you see, which I think there's something wrong with the numbers. To my recollection, it's 17 or 20% oversubscribed. It is it's 1% of the overall budget, but there was more budget than was originally planned. The envelope is 100 million, and I think this is showing that the commercialization drive is working and Europe is engaging in this, and certainly something where we want to create new opportunities for businesses and other activities. Basic activities is really basic activities. That means infrastructure, technology development. There are many facility activities, also IT, communication, this type of activities which are covered in this part. You see here the amounts of money which have been provided. And last but not least, the scientific program, which is also part of the so-called mandatory program or level of resources, which here is at 3.1 billion, making 19% of the overall budget. Science program, of course, looking into the universe and different missions that explore the very nature of our universe, of our being, and therefore very well and very important. And products, which goes together with the science program. Let me move on and show you some detailed figures per program as you see them here in comparison with 2019. I'm not going into them now one by one. I think the table is very self-explanatory. We will publish these figures, of course, widely, so you can see your own assessment. And you see that in some domains the increase was a bit higher than in other ones, but this overall I think is very, very successful, and is a very positive message which we can carry with us here back from Paris. This is a listing of the subscriptions per country. Again, I'm not going into detail here because this is, I think, for deeper analysis, and each country, of course, is then a bit looking into more details. But if you look at the right-hand side, you see the share of the contributors. But what I also would like to say is that almost every country had a significant increase of its budget this year compared to last time. And as I said at the beginning, this is so remarkable and this is so special, and this is something that you cannot overestimate how important this is given the current circumstances. Last but not least, just one word to say that, of course, the income from our member states in ESA is the fundamental part. You are the shareholders of ESA, and you are funding the majority. But I would like to mention, for the sake of being complete in our budget description, that we also have very important cooperations with third parties, other partners with whom we cooperate since a long time. Of course, the European Union. We have signed the FFPA last year, more than 9 billion, around 9 billion euros for the time frame 21 to 27. ESA technology assistance to Italy, to Greece, and to Spain. As you see here, we have recently signed very significant agreements here, altogether adding up to almost 2 billion euros, a bit less than 2 billion. But just to say that also here we have cooperation agreements with some of the countries which are using these mechanism in order to implement projects. Also, of course, what I need to mention here is that we have long-standing agreements, cooperation agreements with EUMETSAT for the development of all meteorological missions, and there we also come to agreements and sign agreements as new missions are being approved on the side of EUMETSAT, but the ones you see here are the ones that have been signed last year and this year. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This is a big relief for all of us. Thank you, ministers. Thank you, all of you, for this strong contribution.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Before we go into the Q&A, I would like to invite Bruno Le Maire and Anna Christmann to join Joseph on stage, and we'll be able to take a few questions from the audience. Please state your name and the media you're working for, and raise your hand so we have microphone going on. So I'm taking a question here, over there.
Thanks, Thierry Dubois, Aviation Week. Question for Joseph. Do you have all the money you need for Ariane 6, especially the Block 2 and the transition phase?
Yes, we do. I may ask maybe for the help of Daniel, who is in the audience, if there's a very detailed question on these particular elements. But Daniel, very briefly an answer from your side. Thank you.
Yes, good morning to all. The answer is yes. For the transition program, we are even a little bit above what we expected. So this is excellent news for the year 23 to 25. And on the product adaptations, meaning for Block 2, we are on a very good path to do it.
Okay, Politico, yes.
Hi, I'm Josh Pisano from Politico. Two quick questions. First of all, to Director General Aschbacher, did any non-EU countries commit money to the Secure Connectivity Scheme? And then also to Minister Le Maire, this is more a question for the future, but you did not have substantive talks today or funding talks on any human spaceflight program. This seems as mission critical for the French government in the future. Is this a regret that you weren't able to talk about this properly this time around?
Yeah. Good. On non-EU countries, did they commit? I would need to look into the long table of many pages of details, but yes, they did. I don't know the exact numbers, but these numbers can be published.
Good, Monsieur Le Maire.
Nous avons eu
We did have discussions on all subjects. I can set your mind at rest on that. So all of the French options were taken into consideration during this meeting.
Peter DeSalding, Space Intel Report. For Joseph or Anna, one of your delegations, and not the least of them, said that the Secure Connectivity project was an existential test for ESA. That's a strong word in French or in English. I'm not sure I understand why it's such a big test. Is your participation in this now going to mean ESA changing its rules to put them more in conformance with what the EU Commission does? If not, I'm not sure what's so existential.
I think Secure Connectivity Program is very important for Europe, and it is also very important for ESA to have a significant contribution in this program. But it is for us clear this one is an ESA program where we signed as member states of ESA, and then it will kind of be part of the connectivity initiative, but to the rules of the ESA. So it's that is important, so that member states will be included in the program and will be involved in further decisions on these part of the programs.
Thank you. Next question. Yes. Jeff.
Jeff Faust, Space News. For Director General, I know you were asking for something on the order of 18.5 billion. So something had to fall short to get to 16.9 billion. Are programs being curtailed or programs not being funded at all as a result of that shortfall?
Good. No, thank you. I can be very short on this answer. Nothing had been curtailed. Some of it had been, of course, reduced and slightly in scope. So what happens typically is if there is an undersubscription on a program, and this is not the first time, I can tell you this is actually happening normally. What we do is we go back to the member states and we say, look, we have asked for 100, we have got 93, so what do we do with 93? And define this in work plans. They are decided by the member states on how we proceed forward. And this will be done for all the budget lines. This is standard process, standard procedure, as we do it every time after ministerial conference. But nothing had to be deleted or taken out of the portfolio.
Thank you. Question over there.
Yeah, David Fossé, Ciel Espace. So you have decided to launch ExoMars with European technology, so congratulations for that. But what does it mean in terms of the schedule? Do you have a calendar for the ExoMars now?
The schedule is the one we have published or announced some time ago. The launch the launch is planned for 2028.
Thank you. Jonathan, BBC.
Thank you. You had some difficulty in future EO, and I wonder what this means for that program and particular aspects of it. The Harmony mission, for example, Earth Explorers, future gravity cooperation with the United States. Are we on the back foot now on those missions?
Okay, what will happen on future EO, and Simonette Kelly is with us, she can give maybe more details, but what we will do is, of course, as I said before, we will go back to the member states and say, look, we have got this amount instead of that amount. We need to make a decision how to move forward. And this is, again, standard procedure. I've done it myself in the past when I was in charge of Earth observation. And then, yes, you have to see what may not be done at the same scale as was planned before. Certainly, but I don't want to, first of all, preempt any of these decisions because this will be done by the member states. And the proposals have now to be elaborated. Of course, looking at the subscriptions, the amount, I can tell you there will be many scenarios drawn up to make sure that we have the best possible scenario for the member states. But maybe Simonette, you want to say a word.
Simonetta, can you stand up, please?
Thank you. Yeah, what can be said is that overall the EO domain has got a strong support, future EO also, with the level of funding which we have to check still the figures, but goes of the order of 80%. What needs to be done? This is an envelope program, so it has various components. What needs to be done is exactly what the Director General has said now, to go back to member states. We will do this between December and February, work a work plan over the next 3 years of what can be implemented, what are the strategic priorities, and these of course include missions like Harmony that you just mentioned, the Gravity missions or the Scout mission, and the decisions of what needs to go ahead, how fast and when, will be taken with member states.
Thank you. I take one last question and then we move on with the program. If none, yes, Peter, yes, maybe somebody else who wasn't. Okay, Peter, go ahead. You won.
Thanks for the endorsement, Philippe. Joseph, if I understood Thierry Breton's speech yesterday, it shouldn't be possible for non-EU members to take part in the secure connectivity program, even at ESA. He doesn't want non-EU components or contractors ventilating into a system that ultimately goes to Brussels, even if ESA has its own separate financing round. So could you help us explain that?
No, first of all, as you probably know, the secure connectivity program has 2 elements, and within these elements, different phases. So there are some of the elements that are more for hardcore government communication, and that certainly is, if I may say, earmarked at the EU member states. But there are other elements, and especially those on the commercial side or more open side, where this system will be much more wider open. So this is all work that is being defined. But let me say that this process has to be developed together with the Commission through the concessionaire, which will be built up through also the announcements which come out from the Commission next year, and of course the announcements on our side. For the ESA money, which means the subscriptions of ESA member states, the ESA rules will apply, and of course the ESA member states will be involved in this decision making. We also go to IPC, for example, if that is not too much detail, on some of the decisions that need to be made.
Thank you very much. So let me thank Bruno Le Maire, Anna Griezmann, and Joseph Aschbacher for this session. I remind you there will be possibility after the next event to have one-on-one interviews. There is some work behind this curtain, and I'd like, without any delay, to invite you to take a seat back and launch the second part. For this, I would like to share with you a short video. So I will ask the regie to start and launch the video you'll see on the screen, and then we will proceed with the announcement of the new class 2022. Thank you.
I want to build a rocket and send it to the stars. I want to become a better steward of planet Earth. I want to defend our home against dangers from outer space. I want to unravel the mysteries of the universe and our place within it. I want to share our great discoveries with the world. I want to be part of something big. To become an astronaut. Why not you? We look up at the night sky and wonder who we are and where we come from. What if the answers were within reach? The European Space Agency cares for your dreams and works every day to turn small steps into giant leaps. Ready to join the crew?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you here with us at the Ministerial Council. Thank you. My name is Louise Houghton. I will be guiding you through this next event and the much-awaited announcement of the 2022 ESA astronaut class. Whether you're here with us in Paris or watching online at home, I think you'll all agree that this is a very exciting time for the European Space Agency. We just heard the fantastic news that ESA member states have agreed to fund European space activities with 17 billion euros. I think that deserves a round of applause. We've seen so many benefits from this funding in the past, and we're excited to see the ideas for future ESA space activities come to light. The light today, though, falls on the next class of ESA astronauts, and we'll be announcing who they are very shortly. Thousands of people submitted an application for this opportunity, and the selection process started in April of last year. There were many rounds, and then the final hurdle was a detailed interview with ESA's Director General. I think that this is the perfect opportunity to announce who those people are, and who better to help me announce those names than ESA's Director General himself. Please welcome to the stage, Josef Aschbacher. So much for joining me on the stage.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So what are the top criteria that you look for when you're selecting an astronaut?
Well, what do we look for? First of all, these are incredible people. You see some of the astronauts here in the room, and I know them pretty well now, and they really have talents that are quite incredible. I mean, they are unique, and I think I really can say that they are unique in many ways. Of course, you look for all the intellectual capability they have, all the manual capability that they can make quick decisions under pressure, usually, and make sure that they push the right buttons and not the wrong ones, and make sure that everything goes fine. But also, of course, we have gone through, I would say, a number of steps or tests in the evaluation. We had about 6 big steps, big waves of reducing the almost 23,000 of applications down to a few. We will see them coming up very soon. One of the last hurdles is the medical test, and the very last hurdle is the Director General of ESA.
Was that fun?
Oh, that was so much fun, I tell you. Talking to these people and interviewing them together, of course, with some of my colleagues is really fun, because you can probe them, of course, a bit under pressure. This is what astronauts like, to put them under pressure and see how they react, and whether they have all they need to be an astronaut. They need to be very special people.
Well, we will announce who they are very shortly, but before we do, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what they're actually going to be doing once they're appointed.
But once they're appointed, so of course first we select them, and then I think there's a huge media frenzy on all the astronauts, and they will be very busy giving interviews and doing all kind of interactions. But once they are appointed, we have actually 2 categories of astronauts. One we call career astronaut, and the other one is astronauts in the reserve pool, which is let me briefly explain. The career astronauts are the ones where we immediately give a contract to them and start working with them to have a base training, to make sure that they get all the information needed, but also that they are getting ready for future missions. This base training will be at the European Astronaut Center in the Cologne in Germany, but also in other places, and lasts about a year, a bit more than a year, and then they would be, as I say, ready for a future mission for which they have to be trained. And then once a future mission is identified, of course, then the training for that mission will have to occur. The astronauts in the reserve pool are astronauts that are astronauts, as the name says, so there is no difference. They are astronauts, but of course they are not yet engaged by ESA directly through a permanent contract, but they will be available for future astronaut activities. They usually would continue their job in what they do, so they would be a physician or a fighter pilot, or we have quite a different diversity of those, so they would continue in their job, but we would have an engagement with them. We will give them a short contract so that they work with us, that we can interact with them regularly, and then if opportunities arise, maybe later on, of course, they can then be put into full training for baseline trainings for astronauts and future missions.
and different projects.
And different projects,
yeah.
voilà.
Well, we look forward to finding out who they are. I don't think we should keep anybody in suspense any longer, do you? Do you want to do the honors and lift the curtain?
How do I lift the curtain?
On your call.
Okay, lift the curtain.
Big round of applause. Wow.
This is so much fun.
Lots of smiles that we're seeing here on the stage. This is our 2022 class of ESA astronauts. I'd like to say some names and introduce them to you. So the first line, from left to right, we have Sophie Adano. Pablo Alvarez Fernandez. Megan Christian. Anthea Comalini. Rosemary Coogan. Sara Garcia Alonso. Raphael Liégeois. And John McFall. Joseph, I can see your smile is as big as theirs. How are you feeling right now?
I think my smile is even bigger. It's so beautiful to see them. I have seen them just a few weeks ago. We had the interview, and I'm very happy to see you again. And it really makes me think of all the brilliance of these people. They have been very sharp in their responses to my difficult questions. I hope you didn't mind too much. I did tell you when in the interview that you may be invited to Paris. You may not know whether you're selected or not, but if you're going to Paris, I said, you will only find out whether you're a career astronaut or astronaut in the reserve pool today, and this is what happened. So I think this was very much of attention for you, but I thank you for being so brave and so wonderful.
Yes, and we'll find out who is going to be a career astronaut in just a moment. But for now, I'll introduce the line at the back. We have, starting from left again, Andrea Patassa. Carmen Posnick, Arno Prost, Amelie Schonenwald, Marco Sieber, Aleš Svoboda, Sławol Uznaninski, Marcus Vandt, and Nicola Winter. I'm so happy to introduce each and every one of you. Huge congratulations to you for being at this stage here today. It's so nice to have you with us, and thank you as well for you joining me on the stage. I'd like to invite you back a little bit later on, if that's okay.
Let me say one last
thing.
Yes,
please.
I mean, if you look at these wonderful people here, of course, the selection was about talent and about capabilities to be a fantastic astronaut. But I'm also very proud that it happens to be a very good distribution of genders. So we have almost 50% ladies in this group here, and I think that's also very important, and from very different countries. You will find out pretty soon from which countries they come. I think this is something I'm very happy about.
I'm happy about that too.
Thank you.
So thank you once again to Josef Aschbacher. Well, I would now like to invite to the stage ESA's Director of Human and Robotic Exploration, Dr. David Parker.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining me. David, you were also involved with the selection of the astronauts that we see here today, and I know that it was important for you to make sure that the final selection was very diverse. As Josef already mentioned, we have 50% women here on the stage, which is fantastic to see from my point of view, but I know it was important for you to include astronauts with a physical disability.
Yeah, this is very important to us. Diversity, it comes in many different ways, and the World Health Organization reckons that about 15% of the population live with some sort of disability, and maybe 2% are really affected by it. And so, of course, to be an astronaut is a very exclusive thing to be, but having a disability shouldn't rule you out. And that was really part of this very special project that we launched in this process.
And I understand that the name is going to be called para-astronauts. Do you want to talk a bit more about where that name came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So para means para as in parallel or alongside. It's like the Paralympics. It's the parallel process alongside the Olympic Games. And the same way, the para-astronaut has been selected, developed, examined in every different way in exactly the same process as all the other astronauts that you see here.
Well, this is the first time that we are attempting to fly somebody with a physical disability to space, so I understand that there's probably quite a lot of uncharted waters ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are pioneering something here. It's something we're really excited to be doing. We need to start a process by which we are going to work with the individual, understand how to adapt the space vehicle, maybe something aboard the space station to ensure that they can live and work and do a meaningful mission aboard the station.
Of course, and I'd like to invite them to the stage now. I'm going to go and grab a microphone so that we can have a few words from them. So I think it's wise that we now announce our para-astronaut for 2022, and that is John McFall. Please come forward. Congratulations, John. It's great to have you with us here at the front of the stage. I'd love to ask you a little bit more about why you applied to be an astronaut, first of all.
Well, when ESA announced they were looking for a candidate with a physical disability, I thought it was such an inspiring and exhilarating opportunity. And I looked at the person's specification and I thought, wow, this is really aspirational. This is a very brave and very bold thing to do. And with my broad scientific background and vast range of experiences, I felt compelled to try and help ESA answer this question: can we get someone with a physical disability to do meaningful work in space?
So what do you think that you can contribute to the feasibility study?
I think that I can bring lots of things to the feasibility study, but I think in particular I can bring inspiration. You know, inspiration that science is for everyone, but inspiration that potentially space is for everyone.
Okay. And do you want to just talk a little bit more about the feasibility study, David, and what it hopes to achieve?
Well, we're really interested to work with John, overcome the challenges that may exist, but also benefit the whole community and reach out and ensure that they come along the journey with us in preparing for John to fly.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure that you have a lot more to say, and that will be said in interviews later on. But for now, I would like to say thank you to both of you. Thank you to Dave Parker, ESA's Director of Human and Robotic Explorations. It's great to have you with us on stage. Thank you so much. And John, if you would like to just go and stand over there on the side of the stage, and we'll announce some of the career astronauts today. Thank you so much. To do those announcements, though, I would like to invite back to the stage ESA's Director General, Josef Aschbacher. Thank you so much for coming back up on stage. Now, you talked already about the two different classes or two different selections that there is here today, either a career astronaut or somebody in the reserve. Is there anything more you'd like to add to that before we announce the names?
I mean, they are all astronauts, so really would like to make this clear that they are all equally capable of flying to space because we have done all the tests and all the pressure we have put on them. The only thing is that we have not 20 or so flight opportunities, so we need to make a choice and start with one batch, and maybe for the others a bit later, and look for other opportunities. So yes, they are all astronauts. Of course, with the career astronauts, we start working immediately. That means early next year. We will offer them a contract, or you have seen the contract already, to really start fully engaging them in all the base training that is needed and prepare them for future missions.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's time that we announce our first one then. Let's come into the middle of the stage a little bit more as we announce our first ESA career astronaut for 2022 is Sophie Adorno.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you. Nice to have you with us. Love to hear a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you came to be here today.
So, first of all, good afternoon to each of you. I I understand that you've worked pretty hard for the past 2 days to get the incredible results that we've seen. Just for the anecdote, we've worked pretty hard for the past year and a half to get here on this stage, and I think we're all very happy to be here. So my background, I'm a career officer from the French Air and Space Force. I'm a helicopter test pilot as well as an engineer. I worked at Airbus Helicopters to start with, and then I flew rescue missions and transport missions throughout Europe. I have 3,000 flight hours and flew on 22 different helicopter types as a test pilot.
Wow.
Fantastic. And how confident were you feeling in the run-up to today's selection?
Well, I'm never confident. I mean, when you realize that there are so many candidates, you're never confident. You just make your way and hoping that the next step is going to work for you. And but now we're very happy.
Okay, well, congratulations to Sophie Adano. Please do go and join John over there on the side of the stage. Thank you. And it now gives me great pleasure to announce the second ESA Career Astronaut of 2022 is Pablo Alvarez Fernandez. Congratulations, Pablo. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background and how you came to apply to be an astronaut.
So, hello everyone, I'm Pablo Alvarez from Spain. I'm an aerospace engineer. I studied in the University of León in my hometown, and I hold a master's degree from the Warsaw University of Technology. I happen to have lived in several different countries across Europe, so I truly feel I'm European at heart. Up to now, I've been working at Airbus as a structural engineer for several different aircraft, but also as the ExoMars mechanical architect for the Rosalind Franklin rover. And now I'm a project manager based in Getafe, in Madrid.
And how was your experience of the final interview with Joseph?
Be very honest.
It was excellent. It was excellent. I could tell that he was actually enjoying interviewing every one of us. He was picky at some point, and he had to play the bad cop. But overall, my experience was great, and I'm very happy and delighted to be here with you all.
We're delighted to have you here as well. Huge congratulations to Pablo Alvarez Fernandez. So you play the bad cop, we just heard. What does playing the bad cop involve?
I like being the bad cop to really put pressure on them and see whether they really sustain. And as you see, they all survived well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to quiz you about that later on. Let's announce the third astronaut, though, for the career selection today, and that is Rosemary Coogan. Congratulations, Rosemary.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, would you like to follow in the same vein as the others and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so my name's Rosemary Coogan. I'm 31 years old and I'm European but from the UK.
I like that.
I didn't mean it like that. I spent a few years as a Royal Naval Reserve during my studies, and then went on to work briefly in industry for software and robotics companies before doing a PhD in astrophysics, and now I work with the French space agency CNES.
Oh, fantastic. And what do you look forward to doing the most in this position?
Oh, well, as Joseph said, the training will start next year, and already that's going to be a fantastic experience, the survival training, the language learning, and I think ESA has put together a really fantastic exploration program, as we've heard about at the ministerial, and I'm really just looking forward to contributing what I can to that program.
Okay.
You have to thank all these ministers for preparing the ground.
Yes, thank you very much.
There we are. Well, huge congratulations once again to Rosemary Coogan. Thank you. Well, we do have a fourth career astronaut to announce, and I'm happy to say that that is Raphael Liégeois. Congratulations, Raphael.
Thank you.
All right, well, following in the same vein as the others, would you like to give us a little bit more information about yourself?
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm Raphael from Belgium. My background is in biomedical engineering. I also did a PhD in neuroscience at the University of Liège in Belgium. And I completed that PhD in 2015. And since then, I have been working as a neuroscientist in various research institutes in Singapore, in the United States. And I am now a research and teaching fellow at the University of Geneva and at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne in Switzerland.
Fantastic. And you applied for this opportunity 18 months ago. When you sent in that application, did you just forget about it, or did you hear kind of quite soon on? How was the application process for you?
Well, quite long. That's the same for all the candidates, I believe. So it was 18 months in total, 6 steps, so roughly a couple months between each step. No, it was hard. At times we were waiting for an answer that was not coming, so that was hard for us, but also hard for the families that I would like to thank also for supporting us and dealing with us when we were in these situations. But no, overall it was a very great experience.
Okay, well, congratulations to you once again. Please put your hands together for Raphael Liégeois. Thank you.
Congratulations.
It must have been a very tough decision, I think, to select these career astronauts.
It was a very tough decision. I can tell you there have been so many fantastic candidates. You see them here, but also many others. And for the ones who have applied and are not standing here, I really would like to say that I'm pretty sure you are also wonderful. I hope you engage with ESA in the future. We have many other good jobs to offer. We would like to really stay in contact with you because this is something very important to us. But it was a tough decision, I can tell you.
I'm sure. Well, we do have one more career astronaut to announce today, and that is Marco Sieber. Congratulations, Marco.
Congratulations.
Love to hear a little bit more about your background as well, please.
Yes, so I'm Marco Sieber from Switzerland. I'm 33 years old and I'm a medical doctor specialized in emergency medicine, and currently I'm doing a training in urology. And yeah, otherwise I like everything that has to do with flying, paragliding, skydiving. So that's what I do.
So you already like being up in the air.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. What was the most challenging part of this selection process for you?
Yeah, I think it was really some kind of a roller coaster with not knowing what's going to happen next. And so it was really hard, and also for really tough questions as well. And also for my family and friends and my partner. So I would like to thank everyone for supporting me all the way. Thank you very much. Merci.
Well, thank you for being here. Marco Sieber, everybody. And that does conclude our career astronaut selection today. Joseph, it's been an amazing day for you and the European Space Agency. If you had to sum it all up in a nutshell, what would you say?
Oh, today was quite a day. I mean, there was a roller coaster for the astronauts, not knowing until now what really happens. For me, I have to say, and this is for me representing really Europe and space through the European Space Agency, there are two important things. Of course, the announcement of the astronauts here is a highlight, which is so fantastic. But also our ministerial conference, I have to say, was quite an important emotional moment as well. Putting all this together, the fruits of a year and a half work, wonderful programs which we are starting now with these commitments of our member states. And I think seeing that ESA is really working extremely well thanks to all the member states and all these contributions is so beautiful to see, and really thank you for that from my side once more.
Thank you, and we look forward to hearing how it all unravels as the years and months go on. I know you already said some thanks, but I would also like to thank you for being on stage and helping me out here today. And I'd like to thank our audience, whether you're here with us in Paris or watching us online, for being so enthusiastic this afternoon. Before we close this afternoon's event, though, we would like to have a group photo on stage with everybody, and then the astronauts and the ministers will be going into their separate offices for the interviews. We do ask that any of the journalists here, please be patient, and our media team will be coming to collect you and take you to them one by one. For the group photo then, in just a minute, I'd love to invite the class of 2009 astronauts up to the stage, along with all of the ministers and Dr. David Parker as well. And please do use the steps on either side of the stage to come up onto the platform. My name is Louise Houghton, and it has been an absolute pleasure to host this momentous occasion here in Paris today. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on with our astronauts, then you can do that online at esa.int, or of course on social at ESA Astro 2022. All right, have a great rest of your afternoon, everybody, and a safe journey home. Thank you very much. Please do come on stage for the photograph, everybody.
First astronauts.